But we also, and President Kennedy made the grave error of promising Khrushchev that he would never, ever destabilize or invade Cuba. So he gave Cuba a free hand to become a nest of subversion all throughout Latin America. So we didn't win the Cuban Missile Crisis. It was a real betrayal. And that leads us to Nicaragua, because Nicaragua was the first country that was the attack from the Cuban, with Soviet arms and Cuban training, to try to undermine Anastasio Somoza. General Somoza was the elected president of Nicaragua. He was a very fine person. But you wouldn't know that from the New York Times and the Washington Post and the other mainstream media. They literally put lie after lie and crucified, this man. The book is called Nicaragua Betrayed by Anastasio Somoza. Nicaragua Betrayed. It's worthy of having in your library. It's still available on Amazon as a used book. I just picked up an additional copy myself. And even though I read it years ago, it's heart-wrenching because Somoza documented every letter, every communication with the State Department, with even Jimmy Carter, and with ambassadors and everyone, and documented every single betrayal. And it's just heart-rending because it's blatant. It's blatant supporting communism. Now, but they weren't communists. Most of these people were globalists, using communism to break down the social order in Nicaragua so that they could come back in and eventually, And the same thing, when I got to the Conservative National Committee in Washington, D.C. in 1982, Nicaragua had already fallen, and I became an advisor down to Latin America and El Salvador, and El Salvador was then under the target of the Cubans, and they were going through the same thing. They asked me to come down there and set up a free market party called Arena, A-R-E-N-A. It means sand in Spanish, but it was an acronym for a libertarian party. And so I was schooling them on how you set up a constitutional government because, every Latin American country is semi-socialist. And all of a sudden, and they were short of money because, the libertarian movement is very, very small in Latin America. Even though there's a Pedro Marroquin university down there in Guatemala, which is just very, very libertarian and has had a lot of influence, doesn't have a lot of money. But it's interesting that the party got sabotaged because a wealthy investor came from the United States with a whole load of money, offering it to the Arena party if they would allow him to have veto power over a lot of the policies. So they bought him off with money. And the Arena party is one of the leading parties. It's mainstream Republican now, conservative Republican, which means it doesn't fight conspiracy, it doesn't fight for constitutional. In fact, one of the embassy officials, when I was at a meeting with the head of the Arena party, he said, "You can have any form of government you want as long as it doesn't match the U.S. Constitution." Here's the endowment for democracy, paid for by U.S. taxpayer money, giving money as long as it's socialist in nature and no constitutional republic. I mean, Somoza was a constitutionalist. He was born in Nicaragua, but he went to high school at La Salle Military Academy in the United States and then graduated from the West Point. So he was fluent in English, really imbued with the Constitution, and that's why he was chosen for destruction, because they wanted this arch-conservative, loyal to the U.S. Constitution, out of the way. In 1977, and I was just reading in chapter 6 of the book, he makes a very dramatic statement for a page and a half, and he said, in 1977, suddenly there became a press campaign, not only in the United States, in every major city, but in every international city, London, Berlin, Paris, etc., attacking me and telling the most outrageous lies. And he said, I had never realized that the left had so much power over the media that they could coordinate that kind of an attack and not publish my response so that the American people were denied getting the truth in the issue. Well, that was in 1977. When's the last time you saw something like that? Donald Trump, right? It wasn't a single day or hour of the year when all the mainstream media would attack Donald Trump. And it wasn't just the Washington Post and New York Times or the international press, et cetera. It was every local news station. Even KSL, the worst propagandist in Utah for the left,